There's a point where your mind starts moving faster than your life, and you don't notice it at first. You just feel this quiet pressure behind every decision, like even the small choices suddenly matter too much. Instead of acting, you sit with the thought a little longer, trying to make sure everything goes right, telling yourself you're just being careful, until you realize you're not moving at all. You're stuck in your head, convinced that thinking a little longer will help you avoid mistakes, but all it really does is pull you away from the world in these small, almost invisible hesitations that add up before you even notice. And the thing is, you probably recognize that feeling more than you'd like to admit. You're sitting there, trying to make a choice that shouldn't be complicated at all, but your mind turns it into something heavier than it needs to be. It might be a message you've been meaning to send, or a simple decision about what to start with. Yet somehow it feels like there's a wrong answer waiting to trip you up, so you linger on it, thinking you'll get clarity if you wait just a little longer. But the moment just slips away instead, and then you're annoyed at yourself. Not because the decision was important, but because it shouldn't have taken this much out of you in the first place. And at some point, you start wondering why it happens in the first place. You're not trying to make life harder, you're just trying not to mess things up. Yet somehow that mindset ends up slowing you down even more. It's strange, because being self-aware should make you more confident, but for a lot of people, it has the opposite effect. The more you pay attention to every detail, the easier it becomes to doubt yourself, almost like your mind doesn't fully trust you to make a move without double-checking it first. This is where things get uncomfortable, because overthinking isn't really about being smart or careful, it's about feeling unsafe. Your mind tries to protect you in the only way it knows how. By slowing you down, it convinces you to hold back, to rethink something you already know, to double-check moments that don't need double checking, all because it's trying to shield you from anything that might feel embarrassing or disappointing. And maybe that made sense at some point in your life, especially if you've dealt with situations where being cautious actually mattered, but now it just adds extra weight to moments that were never meant to be heavy. But the more you pay attention to it, the more you realize overthinking doesn't come from being cautious. It comes from being scared, not terrified in a dramatic way, just quietly afraid of choosing something you'll regret or doing something that makes you feel exposed. And when those feelings stack up, your mind responds by trying to create the perfect move, as if getting everything exactly right will somehow protect you. The problem is, while you're waiting for that perfect clarity, life keeps moving without you. Nothing goes wrong, nothing blows up, you just stay in the same place, and that stillness ends up hurting more than any imperfect decision ever would. What's even more frustrating is that this doesn't look dramatic from the outside. It's not like a movie meltdown or some big emotional scene. Overthinking feels small. It hides in those tiny pauses where you're stuck between wanting to act and wanting to avoid acting. It's the mental loading screen that pops up every time you try to do something simple. You keep telling yourself, just a second, as if clarity will magically appear if you wait long enough. But all that waiting does is train you to treat every decision as a threat, which makes you even slower the next time it becomes a cycle. Not because you're broken, but because your brain has learned the wrong definition of safety. The psychological explanation for this is something researchers have been discussing for years, and they call it decision fatigue. It happens when your mind starts treating every choice like it carries the same weight, so you burn through your ability to decide long before the day is over. It's similar to having too many apps running in the background. Nothing crashes, but everything slows down. And when you combine that with how many options modern life throws at you, it's no surprise your brain feels overwhelmed. Even when you logically understand that most choices aren't a big deal, your mind doesn't operate on logic in those moments. It operates on avoiding discomfort, so it pushes you to stall instead of act. And discomfort is really the heart of all of this. Overthinking tries to dodge discomfort the same way people dodge cold water before jumping in. You stand there, dipping your toe, thinking about how cold it'll be, waiting for your body to feel ready, but you never actually feel ready. You just get more tense. And the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to move. Your brain does the same thing. It thinks pausing will make things easier, but pausing usually just gives your fears more time to grow teeth. There's also a more personal layer to this that people don't talk about enough. A lot of overthinking comes from not fully trusting yourself yet. You trust your ability to understand things, but not always your ability to make a choice and live with it. So your mind gravitates toward imagining every possibility instead of letting you experience the real one. And even though that feels safer for a moment, it slowly turns into a habit where the world moves forward, but you stay in your head, thinking instead of living. And it's not just an individual problem, it's a modern one too. We're surrounded by options and information in a way humans never were before, so the mind ends up carrying a level of decision load it wasn't built for. That pressure makes hesitation feel logical, even when the decisions themselves aren't important. So the brain copes by analyzing even more, but that only adds to the noise instead of clearing it. When you step back, you'll realize that overthinking is really just an attempt to control uncertainty. You're trying to feel safe before taking a step, but life has always worked the opposite way. You act first, then you learn, and then you adjust. Clarity doesn't show up before you move. It shows up because you moved. Nothing in life reveals itself to a person who stays frozen. It only reveals itself to someone who's willing to walk into the unknown and figure things out as they go. And that's the part most people forget. You don't need perfect timing or perfect certainty. You need movement. A small action, an imperfect decision, and something that tells your brain, I can handle this, even when you don't feel fully ready. It's usually that tiny shift that breaks the overthinking cycle, not the big dramatic change. Your mind will always try to offer you one more angle to consider or one more reason to wait, but at some point you recognize that thinking isn't the thing that brings peace. Action is. Not reckless action, just enough movement to remind yourself that you're capable of handling whatever comes next. And maybe that's the quiet lesson underneath all of this. You don't beat overthinking by becoming smarter or more prepared. You beat it by trusting that you'll figure things out along the way. Confidence doesn't appear after you analyze everything, it appears after you act. And the moment you stop waiting for every move to feel perfect is the moment your life finally starts to move again.